Hi friends, welcome to another video. So hi, if you're new here, I'm Lauren. I'm an aspiring author writing my debut novel. It is a sapphic contemporary romance about two girls raised in a conservative Christian community who meet on a blind date with two boys from their town. So for today's video, I want to talk about 5 different strategies and kind of like tips and tactics that I'm using to stay motivated while writing my first novel. I'm about 15,000 in, almost 16k, very excited. And I've been really using these strategies to keep myself going through, low word count days, times when I'm kind of like stuck in filler areas of each chapter, nights that I'm tired and don't want to write, things like that. So these strategies have really helped me keep up my progress, and I'm really excited with how it's been going so far. I'm on track to not just meet but surpass my July monthly goals. I'm aiming for 10k this month. I'm about 1,000 words away. We still have a week left of July, so I'm definitely gonna get there. So let's jump in. Okay, so my first tip is to set low daily goals. It sounds so counterintuitive, you think, because novels obviously have such a high word count. You want to do as many words as possible, but seriously, low daily goals will change your motivation. My daily goal is literally 100 words. That's it. When you have these low goals, there is such low pressure to write a ton that it helps you get started and keep going. I find that when I am doing... My cat just walked in. The tail going up, okay. I find that when I am doing 100 words for the day, I could just keep going. I set a 100-word goal last night. I wrote 750 words. So when I would have higher daily goals, I used to set 500-word goals. Things like, I think we're calling it the November writing challenge now, where the daily word count goal is like over 1,500 words. That was such a huge barrier to entry for me because, you have a full-time job, you have limited amount of time in the day to actually write. It's so difficult to get started and get going. The word count feels just utterly insurmountable at the start of the writing session. So low daily goals have genuinely changed the way I write and have helped me form a consistent habit as I write this novel. Okay, so my second tip is to let yourself be done for the day. If you have hit your 100 words, if you've hit your time goals, if you're, want to dedicate 30 minutes per day, let yourself be done when you feel like you've hit a wall. My cat is walking around. What? He's gonna get in the shot. He's so confused. Let yourself be done for the day. If you feel yourself hitting a wall, if the words just aren't flowing well anymore, stop writing. Let yourself finish, say, we did a good job today, let's move on to tomorrow. Let yourself be done for the day. Let yourself close out the document, track your progress wherever you track it, whether that's, I use TrackBear, if you use a journal, if you're just going with all willy-nilly and not tracking it at all. Sometimes when you feel yourself, the words drying up when you're writing, taking a step back and just giving yourself 24 hours, a good night of sleep to get back into it is the most incredible thing. It lets your mind work on it in the background, and you'll see that stumbling block as so much of a smaller obstacle the next day. It really has changed things for me. Okay, for tip number 3, use shorter writing sprints. For me, writing sprints have been really amazing tools to, get words in, to keep motivated, to set aside time for writing without it feeling overwhelming or like it's getting in the way of other daily activities. But shorter sprints have really changed the game for me. Even when I try for longer sprints, say like even just a 40-minute one, I find myself puttering out around the 30-minute mark pretty consistently. I always seem to hit that wall where just things aren't flowing, things aren't going. And so that's when I say, okay, we're done. Maybe I'll take the last 10 minutes of the sprint to just read through what I have written, maybe read through the previous chapter just to check a couple details kind of thing. And it works. Honestly, you just find your best time frame and stick to it. I've learned that 25 to 30 minutes is really my sweet spot, but I've worked well with even 15 and 20 minute sprints. 35, 40 is where we start to get issues. Sometimes if I'm watching a writing sprint live stream, and I always end up watching the back because just sometimes you just can't catch the stream, I'll sometimes put the video speed on like 1.5 or even 2, just when they decide to do a longer sprint, just to get through a little quicker and to have it be more in line with my personal like optimal time frame. Okay, for my fourth tip, it is to switch up your background music. I know we all love book playlists and character playlists, and I love them too, but for me, listening to a character playlist and music really has only worked during outlining. That's when having that background music really works well for my brain, but when I'm actually drafting and coming up with the story and the actual, the character movements, the dialogue, how these people move through the scene, when I'm doing all these drafting, having music where, you have that beat, the lyrics, sometimes when you're listening to the book playlist, it kind of distracts you and suddenly you're just jamming out to the playlist instead of actually writing. It just becomes a barrier and it becomes an obstacle, and I always just find myself turning off the playlist whatsoever. If, your standard book playlist isn't really working, switch it up. I sometimes do kind of like samey music, things like lo-fi, really chill acoustic, sometimes even metal. It really helps. It sounds so odd, but while writing my, sapphic romance, I have listened to metal, and it works well just for my brain. Once again, find what works for your brain and your writing style and stick with it. Beyond that, sometimes I use like no talking ASMR, background noises like fireplaces, rain, coffee shop ambiance, things like that. Just give your brain a change of pace, and sometimes it helps, especially when I'm working through like a tough area of a scene. Having that background music switch up really helps my brain kind of come at things in a different way. So for my last tip is kind of the simplest but also the hardest, and it's to give yourself grace when you need to skip a session. Sometimes, I'm not feeling well, I'm tired, my brain is just feeling drained from a long day of work or other freelance projects, and skipping writing is truly the best thing for me at that moment. It might not be the best thing for the book, but it's the best thing for me, and you have to put yourself first over the book. It is always okay to skip a day of writing. It refills your creative well and helps you get going the next time you open up that page. For me, writing every day doesn't work well. I get burnt out, so I try to balance it with writing most days, skipping days when I need to, but trying not to skip 2 days in a row. I found that when I skip 2 writing days in a row, it kind of stops my momentum. It's harder for me to get going the next time I open up the document, and I kind of end up having a shorter writing session the next day. The other week I had to skip 2 days in a row because I had a big freelance project due, and the next writing session I had, I only got in 300 words, which is still progress. It's still great to, get that word count in, but I try not to skip 2 days in a row. I find that even 10 minutes of writing is progress. It keeps your momentum going and keeps you going throughout this process. Writing a book is a marathon, not a sprint. This is a really long haul project. So even chipping away at it in 10-15 minute blocks when, this is the last push of the night, it's 10:30 p.m., it all helps and it all gets you to your end goal. So yeah, I think that's everything. It's a different type of video for me, but I wanted to try something new as I'm, still figuring out this channel and everything. So let me know what you think. If you use any of these tips or you have more tips, please leave them down below. Oh my goodness, I'm always looking for new tips and new strategies to use as I write. Like I said, I'm only 16,000 words in, and this thing's gonna end up being around probably 75,000, so I've got a ways to go. But thank you so much for watching. If you would please like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. I would be so happy if you did. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.